On today's show, Kai Jones has finally been signed to the two-way contract that we've been saying he's bound to get signed to. Going to be talking about that, a comment that Terrence Mann made in practice, and more on today's Locked On Opening Week Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and entering my 20th season as a Clipper fan this week. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I detailed my plan for the season and predicted every single team in the West standing place at the end of the regular season on Monday. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. I want you to let me know what you think of the decision to sign Kai Jones to the final two-way contract for this Clipper team. Let me know in the comments, the notification bells, every single time we post a video. And this is it. This is the week that the NBA returns. The 2024-25 season begins. The Clippers' 41st season in Los Angeles and 55th season as a franchise. And before we get started, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Head over to FanDuel.com to place your bets on any sport. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about Kai Jones and what it means and my reaction to him getting that last two-way spot. Then I'm going to go through the entire finalized roster. We're going to analyze it a bit, maybe brainstorm some rotations, and then a comment that Terrence Mann made at practice on Monday that I'm going to be talking about as well. So let's begin with the good news. And I say good news because Kai Jones has earned this contract. For months and months, there have been people in my Locked On comment section saying, the Clippers should take a look at Kai Jones. The Clippers should pick up Kai Jones. But yeah, so with Kai Jones, he has earned, I didn't really know what to think because he tweeted that he wanted to get traded from the Hornets or that he was demanding a trade. He seemed like he was off his rocker and was waived by the Hornets. Eventually, the Clippers got him back, signed him to a training camp deal, and a lot of people were like, oh my God, the Clippers are actually picking up Kai Jones, who was the 19th overall pick in the first round by the New York Knicks, but he ended up playing for the Charlotte Hornets for those 2 years. I mean, he was immediately traded to the Hornets, so it was essentially like they picked him. But I was looking to see what he could do, and his play in preseason was standout. We talked about it. If you check out those post-game episodes for the preseason, Kai Jones was spectacular. He averaged 8 points to go along with 5 rebounds a game on 67% shooting. And this is what Kai Jones gives us that we've really been lacking. Athleticism, a vertical threat, and another shot blocker out there. Starting with the athleticism, we have been brutally slow, old, and unathletic for a couple of years in the 2-1-3 era. We haven't had, and I made jokes about we've only had white centers since Serge Ibaka, who didn't really get to play because he had those back issues. So now we have a black center coming off the bench, and that's a whole joke. I don't care what race you are, and I just care about what you do on the court. But in the joking sense, I think a lot of what people wanted was a more athletic center. Kai Jones definitely fits that bill. He's going to be everywhere. Or I shouldn't say he's going to be everywhere because I don't even know how many minutes he's going to get, but he will be the backup center until Mo Bamba returns. Now, if people are wondering what is a two-way contract, that means he will spend time in the G League and with the Clippers, but he can only play a maximum of 50 games. I previously said 41. I don't know why I thought it was half the season, but he can play a maximum of 50 games. So we're going to need Mo Bamba for those others, and he's the one that's actually on a standard contract. But I've been saying repeatedly throughout the course of the last couple of weeks that I don't know if Mo Bamba is even better than Kai Jones. Because Kai, he's been such a breath of fresh air. The athleticism stuff. As I said, we've lacked athletes. So to see a guy flying all over the court, running the floor super hard in transition offensively, and going up to block shots, being a presence around the rim, he's clearly a very raw talent. Doesn't have the best touch around the basket, but he really can jump out of the gym and is playing hard. And it's one thing to be an athlete, but there's another thing to be an athlete with a motor, with someone that's going to constantly play hard. And if you're a coach, any coach is telling a big man, protect the rim, run the floor hard, rebound. If you do those three things, you'll be on the court. Kai Jones has done those three things in this preseason. I mean, running the floor super hard. He had that one game, I believe it was in Seattle, where he had dunk after dunk after dunk, and it was mainly because he was running the floor hard. His most notable play for me in the preseason was that when he was in drop coverage in the pick and roll, slapped the ball off the backboard at the Intuit Dome, and then finished a lob. That was impressive. So Kai Jones totally has earned this spot. I want him to be the backup center. He will be the backup center on opening night. And here's the great part about it. It goes beyond the actual production on the court for me with Kai Jones, because the exciting plays that he's going to make, whether it be a block shot. I talked about the vertical threat. We haven't had a true lob threat since DeAndre Jordan, maybe. Like Mason Plumlee could finish some alley-oops around the basket, but Kai Jones is one of those guys where James Harden or Kevin Porter will be able to throw it to the sky and he'll go up there and get it. And those kinds of plays, when I mentioned beyond just the production, those kind of alley-oops, those kinds of emphatic dunks in this new stadium with the acoustics and with everybody right on top of each other, those could be momentum-changing plays. Like imagine if we get a huge Kai Jones dunk on Wednesday. That could set the place on fire, and that could change the momentum of a game. That makes it so that 2 points is not the same as a layup when a team's on an 8-0 run and they have, the opposing team hasn't scored in a while and the defense kind of lets their guard down. You know what I'm saying? So Kai Jones has definitely earned this two-way contract. I mean, to make him a standard contract, we'd have to make room on the roster, but he has earned it, and I'm happy for him because it's not just his production, it's also the fact that he's getting a second chance, and he seems really locked in every single game he's played. He's been a workhorse. As far as weaknesses, I think his touch around the rim, as I mentioned earlier, he scares me with the ball at times, kind of clumsy, bobbles the ball a bit, looks a little frantic with it. Defensively, I'm wondering how he's going to do from an IQ perspective. Is he going to be in the right spots? Is he going to be talking on defense? Is he going to play his angles and timing right in drop coverage? You know what I'm saying? We shall see. With his rim protect, with his ability to get up there and the signs that he's shown in the preseason that he can block shots, I would have him in drop coverage. Keep him around the rim. See if he can rebound and block shots against the highest level of NBA competition, real regular season games. And see where we can go from there. Because for all we know, he could be a secondary rim protector behind Zoo. And if we have that, because we haven't had that since really Isaiah Hartenstein, and Zubats has gotten better since then, we're going to be in real business. So Kai Jones, super excited about the possibility of him this season. His athleticism has been desperately needed. His vertical threat, so James Harden has somebody that he can actually throw lobs to. And maybe another rim protector. We needed more athleticism. We needed more youth. We needed more excitement. Kai Jones, maybe he won't just be a Clipper for this year. Maybe he's part of our long-term plans. Congrats to him. He's earned it. And I'm excited to see him on Wednesday. And coming up, going to be taking a look at the overall roster, the finalized 2024-25 Clipper roster for opening night. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to at work and social settings around our family. Sometimes you just don't feel as though you can open up to a lot of people, and you feel like keeping your cards close to your chest because not everybody needs to know things, and you might not be comfortable telling people things for very different reasons and many reasons. But therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask. Because masks should be for Halloween fun, not for our emotions. And therapy is a great place to exercise those emotions and become more comfortable expressing them, or know that maybe it's not your steez to express those emotions to a lot of people. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, so let's look at the LA Clippers 2024-25 finalized roster. The following are the players, and honestly, I'm going to try my best to do this in order of least amount of minutes, I think, to the most. The 15th and final guy at the end of the bench, or I guess not even on the bench right now, PJ Tucker. Actually, no, let me read the two-way contracts first. Jordan Miller, Kai Jones, and Trenton Flowers. Those are the 3 two-way contracts. We talked about Jordan Miller in the last episode. Is he good enough to get a rotation spot right away? I mean, actually, I should rephrase that. I think he's good enough, but will he? Because there are guys with more seniority. So let's start with the 15-man roster with the end of the bench, or not even on the bench, as I said, PJ Tucker. Then number 14, I'm going with the rookie, Cam Christie. Then number 13, Bones Highland, just because I feel as though Kevin Porter Jr. is ahead of him in the pecking order. Number 12, Kobe Brown. Number 11, Amir Coffey. Number 10, Mo Bamba. I guess we'll put Mo Bamba further down because of injuries, but we're going to need a backup center, and we can't play Kai Jones for 82 games. So I feel as though Mo Bamba's spot in the rotation is a little bit more solidified than Amir Coffey. And I said Kevin Porter Jr. before preseason, but I don't know. It seems like, especially without Kawhi, we're going to need him. Then we've got Kevin Porter Jr. That would be number 9. Nicholas Batum, number 8. And then Norman Powell and Terrence Mann, and then we get to the starters. Or, I'm sorry, Norman Powell and Chris Dunn. Then we get to the starters. Terrence Mann, Derek Jones, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubac. Those are your 2024-25 LA Clippers. So when you look at that roster, the obvious things that stand out, a lot more defensive players on it. A much higher defensive focus and just better defensive personnel. Nicholas Batum. We know what he can do on that end of the floor, even at this age. Spent the Olympics guarding the elite players, SGA, Dennis Schroeder. Spent the first round last year guarding Jalen Brunson and doing a good job. He's got long arms. Uses them well. Plays the passing lanes. Always has active hands to protect the pocket pass when he's guarding pick and roll. Smart defender. Always communicates. Low mistake kind of player. Moves the ball fast. It's great to have Nico back. Amir Coffey. He's shown a lot of great tenacity defensively in the preseason. Active hands at all times. Chasing guys off the ball in denial. It's been really good. Really good stuff from Amir. Playing super hard, almost as if he's playing for a rotation spot because Jordan Miller's on his back, trying to take his spot in that rotation. Chris Dunn, awesome point of attack defender. You've seen those signs in preseason. Super physical, moves his feet well, active hands. And there are just certain players that when you watch basketball, you can tell they enjoy playing defense. They look to play defense. And I always repeat this, but defense, about 80% of it is effort. That's from Willis Reed, not me, the late, great Willis Reed. It's about wanting to play defense, too, and having that attention to detail. And Chris Dunn seems like one of those guys that genuinely enjoys playing defense more than offense. Then you've got Derek Jones Jr., who we've added. We saw what he did in the playoffs last year, if you were watching. Guarded the best wing players or perimeter players in every round that they had. Paul George for us. SGA for the Thunder. Anthony Edwards for the Mavs. Then in the finals, JT. He did a very good job. He can guard. He's got long arms. He's super athletic. His ability, as I mentioned at the top of the show, to cover ground rotating around the basket, or maybe that was another episode of Locked On or Dime Drop. I don't know. So many pods I'm recording at this point. But I've mentioned it on Locked On enough times that Derek Jones Jr. has that incredible ability to cover ground on a rotation in a split second. And that's going to be huge for us when we go small, especially when we have those lineups of Nico Batum, Derek Jones, Terrence Mann, all out there together with like a Harden and a Kawhi. It is going to be switch heavy. It is going to be rapid rotations. And I think teams are going to have a hard time getting by those guys. And our speed on the perimeter and our length, that will be something to watch. And then, there were no other new additions. But we already have some good defensive players. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard, Terrence Mann, and Kevin Porter Jr., while he's not known for defense in any way, shape, or form, he's been playing pretty good defense so far in preseason. Pretty active hands. He's got long arms. He is a good athlete. And his effort has been fairly high on that end of the floor, even for preseason. And I did mention Kai Jones, who will be our backup for a little bit until Mo Bamba comes back, and his rim protection was good. So defensive personnel, very good. Offensive creation, that's where we're deficient. No more Paul George, no more Russell Westbrook. In terms of offensive creators, I'm looking at a picture right now of our squad, and the picture in the top row is Mo Bamba, Nico Batum, Kobe Brown, Cam Christie, and Amir Coffey. And none of those 5 guys are creators. If you go to that second row, you have Chris Dunn, Trenton Flowers, James Harden, Bones Highland, and Derek Jones Jr. James Harden and Bones Highland are the creators there. Chris Dunn, he can initiate, but I don't see him creating because he has not shown any confidence in his jump shot at all. And if he's not going to look at the basket, teams are going to know that. It won't take long for teams to figure out that Chris Dunn is not shooting the ball. So then he won't be the same threat in pick and roll. He won't draw the same attention from defenses. So I consider him a play starter and out there for defense. But James Harden and Bones Highland are the only creators in that line of this picture that I'm looking at. Then there's Kai Jones, Kawhi, Terrence, Jordan Miller, and KPJ. Kawhi and KPJ are the creators. I would possibly throw Jordan Miller in there, but we have to see him actually play real rotation minutes in the NBA first. Terrence Mann, I'm not sold. I've never been sold on his game as a creator. Just don't think he's comfortable enough shooting off the bounce, left hand as well. But he has some signs that getting to his right hand, if he embraces that pull-up mid-range, that it's going to be there because teams are going to go under the screen. If they go over the screen, that mid-range is always there for him. If he can take it with confidence and then make it at a decent rate, then he can become more of a creator. That changes our ceiling immensely. And by the way, there were some really, really big contracts given out to role players on Monday. Very good role players, but role players that aren't going to be all-stars making $30+ million a year. So Terrence Mann's contract is not looking bad at all anymore. I know I did an episode about, was it an overpay? I don't think it is now at all, even if he doesn't shoot super great from 3. And also, there's a new TV deal coming up. So the contracts, they might sound outrageous to you now that role players are making $30 million a year, but it's going to get even more absurd. So Terrence Mann's deal, the fact that we got him signed to that before the TV deal kicks in, that might be a bargain in a couple of years, honestly. But we'll see. And then in the last line, it's Norm, PJ, and Zoo. Now, Zoo and Norm are those 2 guys that are going to be looked at after James Harden and KPJ as guys that can create. Just how good can they be doing it? Zubats in the post. We've seen some things in this preseason where the team has looked like at times, okay, we're going to make Zoo more of a focal point this year and throw it to him in the post more. But then there have also been games where we haven't really done that. And a lot of it's on Zoo fighting for a good post position, not catching the ball too high where he has to put it on the floor too much, and teams can double easier and further away from the basket so that he gets a little uncomfortable. And also, he's got to be able to pass out of those double teams and then go up strong. The one thing I'm very nervous about with that is that Zoo gets the worst whistle of anybody on this team, and the refs in the NBA have routinely disrespected him. So I'm nervous that he's just not going to get calls, and we're not going to be motivated to go to the post because he's not getting calls. But I don't know. It's going to have to change eventually. Maybe we got to take a fine for Zoo. Tyler's got to say something about the treatment that he gets from officials. Some might say I'm making excuses before the league even starts, the season even starts, but I've seen Ivica Zubats for the Clippers and how he's officiated over the years. It's diabolical what they don't call with this guy. So if we're going to feed him the ball in the post more, his stats are going to be hurt if the refs are being ridiculous. And then Norman Powell, I see him as more of a work off the catch guy, but he can create a little bit. It is mostly off the catch, though, when guys are closing out. Can he do some stuff in pick and roll? Thing is, he has major tunnel vision, and he's not a very good passer. And we're just talking the mechanics of it. His only pass he seems to have in his bag is that jump scoop pass underneath to a guy in the dunker spot. So I don't know. I'm not convinced about Norm as a passer or playmaker, but he's a great play finisher. So, moral of the story, Clipper roster, more athletic, a little bit younger, defense first, offense a little deficient. When Kawhi's there, it should put the pieces of the puzzle together to be a very solid team, but obviously we don't know when he's going to return. But coming up, speaking of that defense, Terrence Mann had some thoughts on it. Going to be talking about those coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Now, as far as the NBA, Defensive Player of the Year odds I was looking at earlier today, Victor Wembanyama is so in front. It's crazy. Minus 155. I honestly would bet on someone else because his team's going to be so bad. If they gave it to him and his team won 30 games or something, I don't know. But take a look at those. And then if you're a Dodger fan, it's a special time to be alive. The World Series. New York Yankees, LA Dodgers, game 1 on Friday. Dodgers are minus 1.5. I'm taking that. Let's go Dodgers, man. It's a special time in LA, and I know so many Clipper fans are also Dodger fans. So shout out to all of you. And where do you place your bets? FanDuel.com. All right. So Terrence Mann had a quote at practice on Monday that put a huge smile on my face. He said, "This is the best defensive team I've been a part of." You love to hear that from Terrence because you know, one, that Terrence loves to compete on defense, and two, that he pays attention. And I'm not saying that just because Terrence Mann said that means that we're guaranteed to be a better defensive team than any of the defensive teams that we've had when he's been here. But it just shows that he can feel it. He can see and sense that we have some really good defensive personnel. A lot of guys that want to go out there and guard, get after it. So that'll be special. And he was talking about Derrick Jones Jr. as well. And he was saying, both of us are going to be point of attack guys. We're going to pick up 94 feet. He can pick up one possession. I can pick up the next. I mean, having those two out there, it's going to be great. They're going to be super active. It could be hell for some opposing offenses. Like, imagine having a pick and roll. You switch from Terrence Mann guarding you to Derrick Jones Jr. guarding you. It's just like, that would be annoying. And then, let me put Kawhi in the action. Oh, never mind. I don't want to put Kawhi in the action. So the guy that's going to be targeted there is Norman Powell, or the guys that are going to be targeted there are Norman Powell and James Harden. Absolutely. And as far as the defensive rating, shout out to Law Murray, one of our recent guests and frequent guests, beat writer, that said, these are the defensive efficiency ranks of the first 5 Team and Clipper teams. I'm going to not talk about 2020 because he didn't get minutes then. But we were 8th in 2021, 8th in 2022, and then 17th and 16th the last 2 years. So we've seen our point of attack defense was not it the last 2 years, not championship level, especially with a team that's built around Kawhi Leonard, who's a defense guy, started in this league as a defense first guy. We've got to have better defensive personnel. And what made it insane was our 2 best players were apparently 2 of the best two-way players in the league with Paul and Kawhi. And we finished middle of the pack defensively the last 2 years. So Terrence Mann saying that this is the best defense he's been a part of, that's special to hear. Are we going to finish higher than 8th? I think we have a great chance of finishing higher than 8th if Kawhi was playing. If not, I don't think it's out of the question. But I think what's going to be hard for us is scoring the ball, which will set our defense. But I'll tell you what, on Wednesday, if James Harden can just have a huge game, that'll set our defense, and then we can reap the benefits of all these additions on that end of the floor because we're going to have our defense set. And I think we've got some great guys to throw at KD, Beal, and Booker. Terrence, Derrick Jones, and Nico and Chris Dunn, to name a few. As far as starting lineup, I think we throw Terrence on KD because he likes guarding bigger guys, Derrick Jones on Booker, and then we have Norm on Beal. And then we have Harden guarding Tyus Jones, maybe. That would be interesting. If I'm the Suns, I would go at that. See, if I'm other teams, I would make James Harden work so much defensively because he has to carry such a load offensively. But It's going to be fun. And on Tuesday, we're going to preview the game against the Suns. It's going to be crazy. Finally, we get to preview an actual regular season game. Going to be special. The first night at the Intuit Dome. I was thinking of maybe having a guest, but screw that. I've had a lot of guests recently. Just you and me. Tuesday to preview the first night at the Intuit Dome. It's bigger than just a game. It's history. So I'm going to be previewing that, talking about that side of things, and then the game itself. But this is the beginning of a new era for real. I'm excited to be a part of it. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more NBA content. I've been making content this whole weekend. And, of course, LA sports content. And this week, the NBA season is back. You'll get Clipper content as well there. And Locked On Clippers, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't watch on YouTube, I know everyone's starting to watch podcasts on YouTube these days. Remember, if you cannot watch on YouTube and you have to be in the car or something, you have a long commute, you can always listen wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, YouTube as well. We love that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's get to 7,000 subscribers here on Locked On Clippers. The age-old proverb continues. We are almost beginning the Intuit Dome era.